My sister Veronica is undeniably the most duplicitous person you'll ever encounter. On the surface, she exudes sweetness and charm, but beneath that facade lies a starkly different truth. I've known this for years, having grown up with her and witnessed her true nature countless times. We were raised in a poor working-class family, facing hardships that shaped us in profound ways. Like many kids from low-income households, we adapted to less-than-ideal circumstances. Compromise was second nature, whether it was huddling under a single blanket during frigid winters, going to bed with empty stomachs, or making do with hand-me-down clothes. Our childhood was marked by struggle and sacrifice, and as much as I loathed our rundown house with its leaking roof and creaky floors, Veronica hated it just as fiercely. Yet, our approaches to coping with these shared challenges diverged dramatically. I channeled my frustration and yearning for a better life into relentless effort. I threw myself into my studies, determined to break free from the cycle of poverty that ensnared us. Despite numerous obstacles, I secured a scholarship to a prestigious university, a feat that felt nothing short of miraculous. That scholarship paved the way for a solid education, which in turn led to a well-paying, stable job. Once I was established, I made it a priority to give back to my family. Our parents, who had sacrificed so much, deserved a better life, so I helped them move out of that crumbling house into a more comfortable home. Veronica, however, took a radically different route. While I relied on hard work and perseverance, she leaned on her beauty, charm, and cunning. Veronica has always known how to wield her attractiveness and sharp wit to her advantage, particularly when it comes to men. Her life has been a series of relationships, each one carefully chosen to provide what she needs, be it financial security, luxury goods, or a place to live. She's perfected the art of ensuring her bills are paid, and her lifestyle is funded by others. I've never seen Veronica fret over rent or groceries because there's always someone footing the bill. Her last relationship with a rapper was a prime example. He not only covered her expenses but showered her with designer clothes, expensive shoes, and a rent-free place to stay. It seemed like the perfect setup until it imploded. The relationship ended in a blaze of drama when the rapper discovered she was cheating with one of his household staff. Furious, he kicked her out, and as she always does in times of crisis, Veronica came running to me. She showed up at my doorstep, tearful and desperate, begging to stay until the storm passed. Despite my frustration with her self-inflicted chaos, I couldn't turn her away. That's just how our dynamic has always been. She turns to me when she's in trouble, and as the older sister, I struggled to say no. She stayed with me for a month, lying low while the fallout from her latest escapade settled. My husband, fully aware of Veronica's manipulative tendencies, was less than thrilled. He's never been fond of her drama-prone lifestyle, but he knows arguing with me about helping her is futile. He grumbles, endures, and lets me handle it, aware of the soft spot I have for her despite her antics. You'd think Veronica would show some gratitude for the countless times I've bailed her out, but that's not her style. Instead, she's always been envious of me, harboring a deep resentment that seems to gnaw at her. She can't stand that my life turned out better than hers, or that I married a loyal, wonderful man. She's even admitted she finds it unfair that I live comfortably without financial worries, oblivious to the years of hard work that got me here. She seethes when she hears about the luxurious vacations my husband and I take, quick to point out that she doesn't think I deserve any of it. For context, my husband comes from a wealthy family, though you'd never know it by his demeanor. We met at a conference where he was a guest speaker, and I was drawn to his humility and simplicity. No flashy suits, no ostentatious cars, just a grounded, unpretentious man. He later told me he avoids flaunting wealth, a philosophy that deepened my admiration for him. When we began dating seriously, I learned about his family's fortune and the wealth he'd quietly built through savvy decisions and hard work. Even after marrying him, we've been deliberate about keeping our financial status low-key with my family. Yes, we upgraded to a larger home, but we don't flaunt our wealth. Aside from helping my parents and occasionally Veronica in times of genuine need, we rarely discuss money. My husband values modesty, and I respect that. It's also partly because I know how Veronica would react if she knew the full extent of his wealth. She'd likely treat us like her personal ATM. After her breakup with the rapper, I hoped she'd take time to reflect, and maybe even stay single for a bit. But true to form, Veronica quickly latched onto a new man. James, a senior account manager at a reputable company. Initially, I assumed he was just a rebound, but then she shocked everyone by getting serious with him. She constantly boasted about his sports car and wealthy parents. One day, she invited my parents and me to lunch to meet him formally. During that lunch, she revealed her true motives, admitting that James's wealth and status were key factors in her decision to be with him. She wanted to secure her future by marrying into his affluent lifestyle. Worse, before James arrived, Veronica instructed us not to mention our impoverished childhood, insisting we pretend we came from a well-off, respectable family. She'd lied to James about our background, ashamed of our humble roots, and even forbade us from mentioning her string of exes, claiming she'd told him she had no prior relationships. I was floored. She'd fabricated an entirely false narrative and expected us to play along to help her snag a rich husband. I wanted to tell James the truth. He deserved honesty. But Veronica insisted she'd come clean after they were married. Reluctantly, I kept quiet to avoid a scene, though it felt wrong. At the lunch, James's devotion to Veronica was evident. Despite knowing her for only 7 months, he was smitten, respectful to my parents and me, and vocal about his desire to marry her. My parents, caught up in the moment and likely hoping Veronica would finally settle down, gave their blessing on the spot. I felt terrible for James, knowing he was being deceived. Less than a week later, they announced their engagement. My sister, the serial dater who never stayed with one man for long, was getting married. I wanted to believe she'd changed, that she'd found genuine love with James. I was cautiously optimistic, hoping this was a turning point. Veronica seemed thrilled, eagerly planning a lavish engagement party and inviting my husband and me. My husband, who hadn't yet met James, was curious about the man who'd won her over. The party was extravagant, with professional caterers, formally dressed servers, and elegant tables adorned with floral centerpieces. It was clear James had spared no expense, and I understood why Veronica was so eager to marry him. My parents were seated near the center, waving us over, but before we could join them, Veronica intercepted us. Without explanation, she led us to a secluded table in a far corner, far less decorated than the others, and curtly informed us this was our spot for the evening. Confused, my husband asked why we were seated so far from our parents and the main event. With a dismissive sneer, Veronica snapped that she only wanted well-to-do people near her and James's family. Stunned, we exchanged glances as she continued, smugly declaring that James's family was wealthier than anyone she'd ever met, and that we didn't belong near them because we weren't on their level. Her words were venomous, her intent clear. She wanted to humiliate us. The smirk on her face as she delivered this insult made it obvious she relished our discomfort. Before I could respond, James approached, having noticed us talking. He greeted me warmly, then turned to my husband, his face lighting up with recognition. "Mr. Hamilton, what are you doing here?" he exclaimed, clearly thrilled. Veronica's smirk vanished, replaced by confusion, as James continued, his tone brimming with respect. My husband, calm but amused, explained that he was married to me. James was delighted, saying he couldn't believe he'd be family with someone he admired so much. Veronica looked like she'd swallowed something sour. James then revealed that his company had been working under my husband's for years, with my husband's company being one of their biggest clients. He and his team personally managed the account, and he spoke with pride about their frequent collaboration. Veronica's face paled as the truth hit her. She just insulted us, claiming we weren't rich or important enough, only to learn her fiancé worked for my husband's company. The irony was delicious, a moment of pure karmic justice. James, oblivious to the tension, asked why we were seated so far away. I glanced at Veronica, who looked terrified we'd expose her, and calmly told James the truth. This was where she wanted us to sit. James was visibly taken aback and turned to Veronica, asking why she'd isolate her own sister and brother-in-law. Flustered, she stammered, unable to muster a coherent excuse. Before she could recover, I explained exactly what she'd said, that we weren't rich enough to sit near the well-to-do guests. Veronica tried to interrupt, but I continued, laying out her insults plainly. James's expression shifted from confusion to horror. "That's completely inappropriate," he told her sharply. then turned to us, apologizing profusely and offering to move us to a better table. While I appreciated his sincerity, my husband had had enough. Not one to tolerate such blatant disrespect, he politely declined. "Thank you, James, but we're leaving," he said. I nodded, ready to go. Veronica, suddenly panicked, begged us to stay, claiming it was a misunderstanding, but her apologies rang hollow. Would she have cared if James hadn't worked for my husband? Doubtful. We left the party and salvaged the evening with a cozy dinner at our favorite restaurant. Just the two of us. My husband is livid about Veronica's behavior and wants to cut ties completely. I can't blame him. Her actions were disrespectful to both of us. Since the party, my phone hasn't stopped ringing. My parents and some relatives, who only saw us leave abruptly, have branded us rude for walking out on such an important event without asking Veronica for the full story. Meanwhile, Veronica has flooded my inbox with apologies, her tone uncharacteristically remorseful. Apparently, James is furious with her, and they've had a major fight, with him demanding she make things right. I suspect her sudden contrition is less about guilt and more about saving her relationship with James. Many of you have commented that Veronica needs a lesson in humility, and I agree. If I forgive her now, she'll never learn. Her apologies only came after James confronted her, not because she genuinely regrets how she treated us. I also believe James deserves to know the truth about her before he commits to her long-term. While I don't want to interfere in their relationship, I can't let her continue manipulating everyone, especially after hurting me so deeply. My husband and I invited James over for lunch to clear the air. He's been reaching out, apologizing for Veronica's behavior, and we thought a face-to-face conversation would be best. I also spoke with my parents, explaining everything that happened at the party. They were horrified to learn how Veronica humiliated us and apologized for judging us without the full story. They've promised to set the record straight with the rest of the family, ensuring no one blames us for what happened. This week James came over. He apologized again, acknowledging how wrong Veronica's actions were, and pleaded with my husband not to let this affect their business relationship. My husband assured him their professional partnership would remain unchanged, which relieved James. I then took the opportunity to be fully honest with him about Veronica's past, her string of questionable exes, her lack of employment, and her habit of relying on others for money without changing her ways. I wasn't trying to sabotage their relationship, but I felt he needed the full picture. Veronica's charm fades when her true patterns emerge, and I wanted James to know what he was signing up for. He listened carefully, shocked but not defensive, and said he needed time to process everything. He's decided to take space from Veronica to think things over, and I respect his need to make an informed decision. Hours after James left, Veronica called me, screaming hysterically. She revealed that James had ended their engagement. He confronted her about her lies, but instead of owning up, she doubled down, refusing to take responsibility. He told her she lacked maturity and couldn't be trusted, making it clear he saw no future with her. Furious, she blamed me, screaming that James was her golden ticket to wealth and status, and that I'd ruined her chance at a better life. As always, she deflected blame, but I was done. I told her firmly that I didn't care how much she yelled. I was cutting her off. No more help, no more handouts, no more rescuing her from her messes. She'd gone too far this time. She fell silent, stunned by my resolve. I told her I'd overlooked her disrespect for years because I understood her jealousy, but humiliating my husband and me was unforgivable. My husband, despite his dislike for her, had always supported her for my sake, and she'd exploited that kindness. I made it clear she no longer deserved us in her life. If she showed up asking for help again, we'd turn her away. She tried to guilt-trip me, claiming we could start over since she and James were done, but I wasn't swayed. I hung up, and we've since blocked her on our phones and social media. We've also told our parents and relatives we won't tolerate anyone trying to change our minds about her. If they push, they'll be cut off too. Veronica is no longer part of our lives, and I'm at peace with that. It's painful, but sometimes you have to let go of toxic family to protect yourself.